We are so excited here on Ralphie tonight to welcome into the studio Mr. Mark Ronson. His album Uptown Special is out now. Of course, it features the #1 hit Uptown Funk. Mr. Ronson, thank you for making some time, sir.
Of course. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you.
What's it like to have a #1 hit here in the States where you're the title artist?
It's pretty amazing. You know, I've had maybe a few things, but none of my own records have ever, they've always been cult hits or DJ records and stuff. And this is just insane. This is beyond anything I ever thought would happen.
Let's start with the link up with Bruno Mars. I know you produced a couple tracks from his last album, Unorthodox Jukebox, Locked Out of Heaven, as well as Gorilla. Is that when you guys first started working together, though, or does your relationship with him kind of predate that even?
No, that was, I'd always heard about him even when he just started out, and everyone around LA was like, oh yeah, this super talented kid Bruno, he plays all these instruments, he's a great songwriter. But I never met him, and I got a call and just to go in, and we met and we talked about music. It's kind of usually how it always goes, and I just really liked him, so then we got in and started working on his second album. Yeah,
I thought maybe you had something to do with, I believe it was the VMAs in 2011 when he did the tribute to Amy Winehouse, and he sang Valerie. Did you have anything to do with that tribute? Did you see it, and then was that maybe spark something? Or
no, I actually didn't. But I know it was definitely the music that I produced for Amy that brought me to a lot of people's radars, including probably Bruno's, and he was a big fan of that song, and I thought he did a nice job at the tribute.
The one interesting thing is I've read and done research about you is that with this particular song, it was far from effortless. Is it weird to hear something that you basically stressed about so much, on the radio, played all the time?
No, it's amazing. I mean, I love it. Now, when I hear it, I don't think of any of that kind of stuff we went through making the song. It is amazing when I do think back to all those nights we'd leave the studio, or maybe early mornings, having spent 24 hours trying to come with just, 3 or 4 lines and just, being I remember Bruno once saying man, it just breaks my heart, but maybe this song is just not supposed to be, because we had from that initial creative point of it, it was so exciting, the first point. That's why I was really just hanging on to it, we got to make this work. But now when I hear it and I just see people go wild or dance or light up, it's great.
When I speak with other artists about their singles and about their hit songs, they always seem to say, for the most part, this came to me really quick. It was really easy to write, and with the good ones, that's usually the way it is. When you produce stuff for other artists, is that how it goes, or are you manic about everything and you stress over everything?
I think that you always want it to be the best that it can be, right? But there's always, I'd be lying to say that you don't put a little bit more into, you don't spend more time obsessing, thinking about your own records maybe a bit more, because you go home and you're still thinking about it. You're in the shower, you're still thinking about ideas, arrangement stuff. So but I care as much about a record, say if this had been a song on Bruno's album Uptown Funk, I think we would have driven ourselves just as hard with the the production, all the stuff that we were working on. So it's probably about the same.
And you're helping now to work on his third album, right?
He's just starting, so I'm just giving him some space.
Okay.
We spent a lot of time together in the past 3 or 4 months.
Oh, I bet. Well, especially then, you do the promo run, and obviously you perform the song at a number of different places. And I saw you on Fallon this past week performing "Feel Right" with Mystikal. When you're there and you're playing and you're playing guitar, and he's next to you, is it almost hard to concentrate because of how good he is and how true to studio he sounds?
Yeah, it is really fun. Sometimes you just have to not zone out, because it's just you just start really enjoying it. It was a bit the same at SNL, or when we did Ellen with Bruno and Uptown Funk. They're having such a good time, and they're working their asses off, but they're bringing such a good time, and it's so infectious that you almost forget oh no, wait, I'm here to play an instrument, I'm not here to sit and enjoy the show.
You get stage fright?
Yeah, I think it's just nerves and adrenaline. It's before any show. I could be DJing in a club somewhere, in Manchester for 200 kids. It's the same thing. I don't think that to ever go away. It's just been there since I was played in bands when I was 15.
You lived in the city for a long time. I've only been here a couple of years. I always hear from people how much...
I remember when the logo of this station was a red apple, and I think I had a t-shirt. Does this sound at all familiar?
Yeah, a little bit.
PLG, yeah.
I figured you were gonna, because being like the music historian that you are and being in the city for so long, I figured you probably were listening to PLJ back when we were still playing rock music, probably.
Yeah, then it was a pub station when I was, the school run. I remember it very well. And so, yeah, absolutely.
You were growing up on the Upper West Side.
Yeah.
I had an Uber driver the other day that had been on the Upper West Side for like 25 or 30 years. Like, he met his wife 25 years ago at the High Life on 83rd and Amsterdam.
I know the High Life. I actually went there with a good friend of mine, yeah. Who also won't get on planes if there is a B-list celebrity on the plane. He thinks it's a jinx.
No, that's a new one. That's
Shout out to Rich Kleiman.
That's
if you're listening.
That's hilarious. Manhattan obviously has changed for you, somebody that kind of grew up here, for the better or for the worse. Like, is it, as an artist, like, are you still able to find inspiration in Manhattan or no?
Manhattan is such an incredible city. I definitely think that you can find inspiration here. I mean, some of the things that changed are probably for the better. Like, I remember, Times Square when we moved here, and I guess it was the 80s with my mother. Like, if we were walking through Times Square, she'd like grab our hands and pull us in like a little, like, it was a little sketchy. But, there's other things that people miss about New York, that it was a little more dangerous and dirty. But it's an incredible city. The energy of the city and the people stay the same,
I think the one thing that the driver had brought up to me was the fact that like a lot of the mom and pops on the Upper West Side are getting pushed out now. It was funny. He mentioned like Victoria's Secret moving up there, and he was like, "Man, as soon as Victoria's Secret came up here, this whole neighborhood changed."
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's specifically Victoria's Secret, but I do remember like going across 72nd Street, just all this string of kind of like great, like you said, independent stores, mom and pop stores or whatever, and it can start to look a bit like a strip mall or something after a while, which is a shame, but it's still amazing up there.
That said, I mean, obviously, you said you could still find inspiration in Manhattan and you think it's the greatest city, but you don't mind, I guess you go to other boroughs as well and you could pick up different things. I feel like that's where like things are getting like pushed out to, right? Or now? I
think so. For the last 5 or 6 years, I've recorded all my records in Brooklyn. Now the Dap Kings and all the guys I record with, now they're out in Queens, and obviously there's a great scene with PS1 and all that stuff. So yeah, I think probably most of like the cultural stuff and the exciting stuff is, it's artists and stuff that, obviously living in the city is expensive. So it's usually happening elsewhere.
Wrapping up with Mark Ronson here on Ralphie Tonight. I think you could speak to this better than anybody else, because in this day and age, I just feel like whenever a great artist comes along or a very good artist comes along, they can never just be very good or great on their own right. They have to be the next somebody else. Like, like right now, obviously the big comparison is with Sam Smith and Adele. Are you cool with that? Or especially as somebody that's worked with, Amy and Adele and Bruno and so many big names, or does that annoy you?
I don't really mind. I mean, I see why it's annoying probably for someone like Sam Smith, but he, in some ways, he's British. He's got a really soulful voice. He had a breakout performance on SNL. It's sort of just easy to like put it in that thing. But the music, it does different things for people. Like when I listen to, Stay With Me, I don't get the same feeling when I listen to a great Adele song. And I think it's just like something sort of journalists do to put things in boxes a little bit.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. And I'm sure for the artist, but again, as somebody that like, I'm sure you've heard from artists that have come up over the past, how many ever years. Oh yeah, this person, they're going to be like the next Amy Winehouse. That's got to make you cringe.
I mean, listen, no one's ever going to live up to Amy, in the way she was such a singular, incredible artist, the way she wrote songs and her voice, and that's an unfair pressure to put on anybody's anyway. But yeah, I mean, I guess I was never the next anybody, so I didn't really have to worry about that too much.